Okay, we are here in Antalya, Turkey. It's February 20th, 2025, and I'm with Shane Bunyi. He is a third-year architecture student at the University of Pennsylvania Weitzman School of Design. Shane is from Dallas, Texas, and we are here on the Ferda Kolatan studio trip looking at our project, which is in Side. Shane, what have been your impressions of Side and what you've seen in the last 3 or 4 days in terms of Antalya and this archaeology?
Yeah, thus far I've been really impressed with the archaeological preservation attempts. We took a tour of the archaeology facility, of course, and it was super interesting to see the sort of knolling out of all the different artifacts and the tiling samples. And it's one thing to see the site on Google Earth, but it's completely different to actually occupy it and walk through it. So it was a lot of fun sort of seeking out different vantage points from which I can reference for my project, and just even the material qualities as well.
And the project is for a hammam.
Yes.
In Side, Side being an antique city, and this hammam being from the Roman period. Can you kind of describe this hammam a little bit? What is it? What you all intend to do with it?
Yeah, so it's the Great or Grand Hammam. So one of the largest in Side, I believe. We plan to not sort of fetishize the artifactual or the and antiquated portion of this, as do a lot of sort of the resorts that you see here, but rather take a really contemporary approach to designing a modern day hammam with sort of aesthetic considerations that are a lot more less quiche and or kitsch rather, and
right.
a lot more geared towards an actual experience rather than just referential to history.
You've been in a number of archaeological digs in the last 2 or 3 days. We went together to Termissos, we visited Espendos, we were in Side. What do you think is important in terms of the modern experience of being an archaeological site? And can you kind of relate that to what you feel is necessary in the contemporary architectural propositions you're making? Like how should we experience archaeology today, and what is the role of contemporary architecture? What could be the role of contemporary architecture?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of approaches, at least I've seen so far. It's one of which being preserving or restoring the actual artifacts from antiquity. But this studio sort of aims to. The experience of the projects ultimately is less so to restore the artifacts and more so to enhance the qualities or give a new aesthetic to antiquity and to the preservation attempts that you see.
And that's what Ferda Kolatan has sort of created as one of the key goals of this studio, correct?
Yes.
And last question, this is the last year of your architectural education. What do you feel has been the contribution of this particular studio and coming to this particular culture to your understanding of architecture?
I would say I've had a lot of different experiences and from a vast array of faculty at Penn, and I feel as though Ferda has significantly contributed to the contemporary aesthetic theory, but also is deeply rooted in an understanding of the culture, specifically him having a background here, but also just a very vast knowledge of the history of the site. And I believe it's a super important sort of contextual grounding from which we can draw a lot of ideas.
And this is, I think, an important part of the University of Pennsylvania MArch experience. Yeah. Is this kind of large footprint you've occupied, and this being one of them. I want to thank you, Shane, for coming, and thank you for your observations. I've been with Shane Bunye. He's a third-year architecture student from Dallas, Texas, finishing up his architectural education, and we were happy to host him here at Barut Hamera Hotel for this studio. Hi, I'm Gökhan Karakuş, and I'm here with Peter Yang from Beijing, China, and we are at the Barut Hamera Hotel in Side Antalya. And we're going to talk to Peter a little bit about his experience here in Side at the Ferda Kolatan studio, which is a third-year MR design research studio,
design
Peter?
research.
Right. Can you tell me why you picked this studio? Because at the Weitzman School, there's a lottery and students pick. What drew you to this studio in terms of, selecting this as your last? This is your last?
Yeah, this is going to be my
your
last
studio.
semester before my graduation. So yeah, the question is like why I chose
This one. Why did
this
you
one,
choose?
right?
Yeah.
Okay, because we have like a presentation for every studio before the lottery, and looking at all the syllabus, and I'm just thinking like Ferda Studio, which is based in Turkey, and the project is about the bathhouse. Is really interesting because I was doing a lot of like bigger project in the previous years, including like a village scale and even like more like mixed use, like residential, something like that. It's pretty big. But I feel like this I have more control doing a bathhouse, and never been to Turkey before, so this is gonna be a first time visiting here. Pretty excited about that, and it's gonna be I know that it's gonna be a travel studio, so yeah, just really interested.
So the travel, the bathhouse, and in terms of the bathhouse, is this something, what did you learn about the bathhouse? Like today,
like after,
you've been like totally embedded in bathhouse architecture. Like what can you say about the bathhouse? It's a Roman bathhouse, but this is Turkey, so they have this history of hammams. Like what is a bathhouse?
So,
And what is the project you guys are working on?
I guess like before the visit, I did a little bit of research on the hammam, like Turkish hammam, but I wasn't expecting like this to be this big. I actually thought it was going to be a smaller scale. And after visiting that, like the bathhouse for me is like more of a gathering space rather than like just showering and
Right.
bathing. So the Romans and the Greeks, like the social interaction is actually a very important part of their life, I guess. So that is one of the things we try to emphasize after we go back to the studio. Yes.
Now you've been here in Side the last 3-4 days. We visited some archaeological sites. How is it to do architectural design inside of archaeology?
Like inside archaeology.
Yeah, because you're an archaeological site, but you have to do architecture. Like, how does? What are the constraints? What are the advantages?
So like in terms of the constraint, like I want to say it's like constraint because one of the topic of our studio is about hybridization, so which is find the modern solution to deal with the ruin site. So we still want to keep part of the look of the archaeology artifacts, but with modern material, modern methodology, how to make it refreshing.
Right.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, you've walked in and out a lot, but the last 3 days you've been, and I noticed you've been actually very actively walking around
climbing
the
around.
archaeological sites more than the other students. When you actually engage archaeology by visiting these archaeological sites, what about it, that experience, you think is interesting? And then, in terms of your intervention at Side, which is a bathhouse, what do you feel is the opportunity for architecture, contemporary architecture in an archaeological site? Like, what is the experience in an archaeological site, and what do you think is the opportunity for architecture in an archaeological site?
So, like before this visit, I actually haven't been to too many archaeology sites before. But like this time, like just climbing on the rocks, like you get a sense of how thick the wall is, like how heavy the stone is, like how like it has been the weather how the weather has made the material wear off. So it's like those kind of experiences you couldn't get from a Google Earth images.
Right.
Which is terrible. You can just like zoom in 200%, but you basically still see it as a flat image.
Right.
Like, so actually touching the material and feeling the sense, feeling the heaviness, it's really important, I guess.
And lastly, you've been here also in Turkey. I know you were in Istanbul, or you're going to go to Istanbul?
But I only stayed there for one night. So.
Okay. And now you're in Side Antalya, and you're seeing the culture of Antalya and the contemporary tourism sector here. Can you tell us a little bit about your impressions? We're here at the Barut Hamera Hotel. This is in the end a tourist economy site. So can you talk a little bit about that and how it relates to what you all are trying to do in terms of a new, perhaps, site for visitors and tourists?
I think like making it a visitor attraction is definitely important. Like this is part of the economy, and also it's a very important part. Is like stepping into, how do you say it? So it's like we don't just like stay in the past. It's a very important way to make it attracting and worldwide, make it a visitor attraction. So, but we don't want it to be too commercial. We don't want it to be too like a visitor like traps and some type of thing. So, I guess to find the balance between those two is very important for us to think about. And yeah, it's just like a lot of people like using TikTok. I just find attracting like drone shots. Those things is what I want to avoid.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right.
So I don't want it to be just like experience from a perspective on air to be like to really fancy and really fantastic like renderings, but it's from a different perspective that people can actually experience. So I want to do something that's actually human scale, like on a high level experience. That's gonna be more attractive than, in my opinion, than those like kind of fake drone shots and just yeah. Yeah,
because we live in a kind of very TikTok, Instagrammable world of tourism, and they're all looking at these as monuments, and you're saying you want to make it more like human scale as an experience, right?
You want it's a kind of experience that you can step in, like you're gonna feel how tall the building actually is, and how it can form a space like enclose you instead of like looking from the rendering, like from aerial perspective.
We've been with Peter Yang. He's a third-year MArch student at the Weitzman School of Design in the Masters of Architecture program at the University of Pennsylvania. I want to thank you, Peter, for your comments.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Gökhan Karakuş, and I'm here at the Barut Hamera Hotel in Side Antalya talking to Brendan Fleury. And Brendan is here as part of Ferda Kolatan's third-year design research studio? Advanced design research studio at the University of Pennsylvania Weitzman School of Design Masters of Architecture program. This is all very serious, Brendan. Now you're, at the end of your architecture education. Can you talk a little bit about your architecture education at the Weitzman School and, try to compare your mindset now to when you first started 3 years ago? It's because it's been quite a while, 3 years of learning architecture. How would you say is the main difference now to when you first started?
Yeah, so I actually have an undergrad in architecture too. So this is my 7th year studying architecture, but the first 4 I'd say were very traditional architecture.
And you were at Kent State in Ohio,
yes,
right?
Kent State University. The first 4 are very traditional. But Penn has really allowed me to express my design interests and be more expressive about kind of what I'm interested in. Allow me to pursue avenues of kind of self-interest as well.
Right.
And especially in the advanced studios, there's been more freedom to kind of select studios, not only select them, but kind of develop as a designer within them.
And why'd you select this studio, Ferda Kolatan's? There was a lottery, you got to pick. What attracted you to this particular?
Yeah, so I was in Ferda's image object architecture, his
seminar
at Penn, and I really enjoyed it, and there's been great reviews of the studio, and so yeah, I mean that was the main reason. I knew Ferda personally before selecting him for the studio, But obviously the travel week and the destination was a big part of that too. And I know a lot of Ferda's work, so
Okay.
I knew the product.
And so, had you been to this part of the world before?
No, I have not.
Mediterranean. Okay. What were your initial impressions when you got here? Like, what were you expecting, and what did you get?
Yeah, we flew into Istanbul for 4 days. So just, I mean, there was a big cultural shift, obviously, from Philadelphia to Istanbul, which was great. We got to experience all the mosques and really live the life for a little bit. It was nice to see that it was a really walkable city too.
Right, pedestrian.
Yeah, so we really were immersed in everything.
Did you expect? What did you expect, and what did you get out of Istanbul, for example? Like, what did you not expect from Istanbul?
I mean, the amount of mosques that were available for the public to see and experience was truly amazing, and just the geographic kind of placement of all of them, how close they were, was kind of mind-boggling to me. I didn't really understand that all of that was in one centralized location, which was really cool. And Ferda's done a great job of preparing us kind of with the historical aspect of it, so we kind of know the two sides of Istanbul and what and why everything's been developed the way it is, which is really great.
And then you find yourself walking around various archaeological sites on the Mediterranean.
Yes.
Had you been to any archaeological sites before? And can you describe that experience? Like, what is, you get to an archaeological site, what is it like? What does one do, and how did it affect you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to any archaeological sites, but these were obviously all really amazing. Just kind of grasping the significance of where we were, what we were taking in, and then also kind of the design brief was the whole other side of it, how we interpret that. But there definitely was a significance to where we were standing and a history there that was exciting to just be a part of.
Yeah, because in archaeology, the experience is almost as important. Maybe you don't know much about the culture, but when you actually experience these places, and now you're involved in a studio where you actually have to design that experience in another way. Can you describe what exactly you're doing, because you're working on a large Roman bath in Side,
Yes.
and what you hope to do, like what are your objectives in terms of reinterpreting or kind of bringing that forward into contemporary life?
So the main objective of the studio is to blend, obviously old and new, kind of not only in a new way, but in a ambiguous way, a way that maybe hasn't been thought of, obviously. We're designing through those things, but we're really just trying to create something new and a new reuse of a site that typically isn't thought of being built on top of, which is an interesting design challenge in and of itself. Being that Side kind of has, what they're currently doing is just stacking kind of this commercial lots on top of the archaeological sites and just putting the glass windows, but really finding a way to express what's there and kind of keep that powerful significance of the site intact.
Now this is, Side is, the city that we see today is basically a Roman city, 1st and 2nd century AD, and it has a certain scale, certain appearance. Can you describe that appearance? I mean, you've seen some of these spaces, such as the agora, such as the hammam, such as the roads. What about the Roman city do you feel is important to retain in it and kind of express in the architecture?
Yeah, I mean, all of the sites that we've been to are different, but speaking to Side, I mean, there's just being the location on the coast obviously has a kind of significant kind of way as to the way it was shaped, but just the way that the buildings were placed and arranged and then changed as the change of power kind of came through was unique, and it's something you read about in textbooks and something that we've been Ferda's talked to us about, but when you see kind of the several baths and how they change through kind of leadership, it's powerful.
And in terms of that power, you also saw the processes of the discipline of archaeology. which are very important to kind of. Well, they also do the same thing. They pick out bits and pieces and they try to reinterpret it for the modern world. What do you feel is the role of archaeology, as somebody that just saw this week a lot of archaeology, in 21st century? Like, you know, we're in a period now, let's say in world, American culture, where a lot of these knowledge disciplines are being criticized as having no use in contemporary life. But what do you feel, as somebody that's actually seen it firsthand, what is the role, what is the value of archaeology today for modern life?
Yeah, I mean, even speaking to the head of archaeology at CDE, and kind of having an inside look at the process that they go through was kind of eye-opening to me. I mean, I've known about the process and its significance, but actually seeing the restoration and kind of collection of these archivable pieces on the site was really great, and being able to see kind of even the surveys and the kind of borings that they did to show the age and how everything was built on top of each other, but even the preservation of those artifacts too, getting to see how they piece together and then get photographed and shipped out to museums, but seeing that before they're in their final resting place was great.
As a last question, we're here at the Barut Hamera Hotel. We're in a kind of center for tourism. The big economy here is tourism. Can you describe a little bit like what you see here in terms of this tourist economy and what you hope your activities in terms of the architectural propositions you all are making within the context of tourism in CDE?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the proposals that we're putting out are an incentive to relate to the historical context of the site, maybe in a more relational way or expressive way to what's been there before us. A lot of the kind of touristy shops are just populating over top of the ruins, which isn't as much of an expression of what's there, but rather a kind of a washover almost, I could say. But hopefully our studio brings kind of a light to ways of integrating into a site, and not only the site, but a really historically rich site with the archaeological finds and the ruins that are there.
I've been with Brendan Fleury. He is a third-year Masters of Architecture student from Hershey, Pennsylvania, Hershey Park. Still Hershey Park's there?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And
the factory's there? Very. And we've been talking about Ferda Folatan's Advanced Design Research Studio at the Weitzman School of Design, the Masters of Architecture program, University of Pennsylvania. Thanks, Brendan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gökhan Karakuş, and we're here talking to Daniela Mulvey from Valhalla, New York, in the Hudson Valley in Westchester, which I have been to and quite enjoyed the Hudson Valley. And Daniela is a third-year student in the Masters of Architecture program at the University of Pennsylvania Weitzman School, and she's here in the context of Ferda Folatan's studio, Advanced Design Research Studio. It's February 20th, 2025. Daniela, Turkey, Antalya, CDE, did you have any idea about any of these places 3 months ago? Like, and now you find yourself here.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea?
No, I think it's all been very new, and before Ferda's studio, I had like not a ton of knowledge, so everything's been very new, but also totally awesome.
Right. Had you been to Europe
Yes.
before? So you knew what Europe was about?
Yes.
But you arrived here in Istanbul, Antalya. What have been some of your first impressions?
The deep history, like everything feels like it has like layers and layers of stories to it.
Right.
And kind of the visits that we've been doing over the last few days, it just feels like you're traveling back in time, and that there's just so much here to like unpack and discover. So I feel like that's been just like my overarching like feel of everything. Yeah.
Interesting thing you said, traveling back in time. So, you know, these archaeological sites, people lived there a long time ago. What do you feel is the value of archaeology and archaeological sites in like modern life? Like, why are we spending so much time and effort, do you think, to, we were there at an archaeological site yesterday. They were like digging it out. What do you feel is the role of archaeology in the 21st century? After having experienced them the last 2 or 3 days.
I think it's like to find understanding. I think at the end of the day, like to put yourself in the shoes of the people that once lived there and how they were doing things and how
kind of empathy, you're saying?
Like put yourself in their shoes and pretend that you were kind of in that time period, and then just a deeper level of understanding of why we do the things we do. And I think it's interesting to the placement as like through an architecture lens, the placement of things like the amphitheater when we went to Termesos.
Yeah.
Why they specifically put it right there so you can look at this gorgeous mountain and that's where the stage is. Like they were thinking just like we were thinking when we would design today.
So it's not necessarily the past, these people, they're like basically like us, but they had a different sort of material
Just
culture and opportunity. Now, in terms of the material culture and opportunities, you saw a lot of architecture in stone the last few days at various scales. I like architecture in stone. So what do you feel is the architecture in stone? As you've seen various stone masonry, ashlar masonry, you've seen arches, Roman aqueducts, and things like that. What impressed you about the architecture in stone that you've seen the last few days?
Maybe the massivity of everything, the scale, how we were able to build these things with the tools that they had is kind of dumbfounding, I think, because today I don't think we see anything as grand as
Right.
has that weight to it, like the aqueduct that we saw yesterday.
Right. It was quite tall.
Yeah, heavy, but also, just has this whole feeling to it. I think that's a material. To use that heavy of a material and get it to be this grand thing.
Right. Now, you said grand, so the project is the Grand Hammam or the Grand Roman Bath in Side. You were there today you were there. Like, what is this building? Like, what do you feel is the importance of this building now that you've been walking around it for a couple of days? And this is, by the way, this is the project, Ferda Koltan Studio project, is to reinterpret the Grand Roman Bath in Side. Go ahead.
Yeah. It was surprising because I did talk about how grand the structures felt. I think being by the water, when me and Nancy is my partner on the project, when we were walking through, it felt very peaceful today. And I think that's kind of what it was about. Like, you go there to cleanse, to like relax, and it's supposed to be a calming experience. And I feel like when we were walking through the site today, there was various moments where you're looking out on the water, where you're in kind of a space with a lot of vegetation, and you're just like taking in the sunlight. That felt very relaxing to me. So I feel like that was me trying to put myself
right. That you could see you were in a bath. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you got a chance to, I think, at the Barud Hameri. Did you go in the hammam here?
We went to the hammam here today, but we had an even cooler experience. We went to the bath in Turkey, right by the Hagia Sophia.
Oh, the Çemberli Taş hammam.
I think so.
Right. Because you've been in a couple of hammams before.
The more traditional experience, which was very cool.
Right. And do you think the hammam, if they put a hammam in the middle of New York City, do you think people would go? And what would that hammam have to be designed like to, you think, have any similarity to the things that you've seen here? Like, can you make these, it's very much in this culture embedded, the Roman bath and hammam? Is it translatable to like Philadelphia, New York, Boston?
I think it definitely could be. I think the difficulty would be finding that peaceful nature within a city that doesn't sleep, or a city that's hustling, bustling with the skyscrapers and access to light. Because I think that's part of the experience, like laying down and then having the elephant eyes diffuse the light. So how can you get that? Do you have to build it on top?
Right.
Or can you still get that experience on the ground in New York? I think it'd be
that ambient light, sound, exactly. What do you hope to do in your project? You and Nancy are a project team. What are you guys kind of going through in your mind right now about?
We've had a lot of inspirations. I think the conversations we had today were kind of how we saw the preservation of all the ruins across today, and how they're kind of tackling that now with the glass. I think we talked about that earlier, the glass kind of flooring so you can peer into it. How can we do that better and way more interesting?
Right.
So I think we want to pay respect to the ruin. We've talked a lot about like getting close but not touching, or kind of cantilevering over and being immersed in it but not destroying or kind of taking over. So we're kind of looking to uncover the new but still like kind of respect the old.
Now, last question. You also have been here in Side, and you've sort of experienced the tourism sector, tourism economy. We're here at the Barut Hemer Hotels. Thank you, Cengiz Barut, Mina Barut, for the sponsorship. We appreciate it. In terms of the experience of tourism and the ancient past, archaeology, what do you think should be the relationship? Like if you had to kind of strategize moving forward, both as a designer but also as somebody that's experiencing this tourism, what is the value in terms of like developing that, you think?
I think that there's value in definitely like the economics that you get from tourism, I think anywhere, but at the same time, I think if we can use it as a tool to educate people and also make people realize how much rich history is here, that is totally just mind-blowing. Like, you know, I'd like somebody to come here, not know anything, and then leave being like, wow, what is this? You know,
has this affected you? Like when you go back to the United States of
100%,
America, what are you going to remember about this experience? Like what's going to be like?
I just feel like there has been like every little nook and corner we're finding a new part.
Right.
And that has been like the most exciting. Me and Nancy like meandered around today, and we just found so many other like cool moments.
Right.
So it just feels like a discovery. Yeah, it's been cool.
I've been with Daniela Mulvey. She is a third-year Masters of Architecture student at the University of Pennsylvania Weitzman School of Design, and she is part of Professor Ferda Kolatan's Advanced Design Research Studio, and it's her last semester of architecture education. What do you want to do after this, Danielle? What are you going to do?
Looking to be in New York.
You're going to be an architect in New York. Okay,
yeah, that's the goal.
So Daniela joins me in New York architecture culture after this. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you.